What led a devout Muslim to leave Islam and eventually become a world-renowned Christian apologist? Also, why are so many Muslims coming to faith in Jesus? Well, Abdu Murray joins us now. So, my brother, you grew up as a confident Muslim. How did that begin to crack?
Well, actually began to crack when two Christians came to the apartment I was living in the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and Michigan, that is. And I wanted to disprove the Bible. I wanted to show them how there was some fundamental contradictions. You know, like Luke has Jesus saying X, and then Matthew has him saying not X, something like that. Well, as I was reading the Bible, I came across, to not believe a word of it, by the way, came across a passage in Luke chapter 3, verses 7 and following, where John the Baptist basically tells people, don't think that your heritage as Jews will save you from Jesus, from the wrath to come. For he says, for I tell you, God can raise up children of Abraham from the stones. Now, that pricked my conscience because I had been telling Christians who I was knocking the faith out of and doing a pretty good job of doing that. I was telling them that tradition is not a good reason to believe something. Don't be a Christian just because you're supposed to be, be brave, follow the truth. And then suddenly John the Baptist's words, as I was reading them, again, to find the flaws, convicted me. Are you believing for the same reason you're telling Christians it's not legitimate to believe something? Maybe it's because of tradition. So that began a search where I thought, okay, I am going to believe something because it's true, not because it's tradition. That began that. And I was still confident Islam was going to win. I had every confidence in that. But I was like, I'm going to be objective and I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to do these things. Well, during this time of my mind shift, I come across a passage in the Quran. The holy book that I had agreed was the book that came directly from God. It was God's dictated word, not his inspired word. In the 5th chapter of the Quran, and then in several other places as well, it talks about the Bible in glowing terms, that the Bible that was extant in the 7th century when Islam formed was actually worthy of our trust. And so I began to look into whether or not the Bible that we have today was the Bible that was existent in the 7th century. And I began to see the evidence wasn't just good, it was overwhelming, that what we have today is what they wrote then when it comes to the Bible. But of course, the Quran and the Bible make contradictory claims about Jesus, about the Trinity, about the crucifixion. So I began to do the historical investigation, but then also the philosophical investigation. So really, it comes down to the fact that those things all added up to a rational need to believe in God in terms of my intellectual. But then there was also the existential issues, like who was I going to be if I became a Christian? I loved being a Muslim. I had an identity built up as that. But at some point, you have to come to terms with intellectual integrity. You have to go with where the evidence leads. But here's the cool part. So what I discovered was where the evidence led was to a truth that my heart actually needed as well. It wasn't just my mind that had to have these questions satisfied. It was my heart that had to have its longings satisfied. So the intellectual sort of came first, and then the realization that is also satisfy the heart, that came second, because Muslims believe God is greater. Allahu Akbar. They say that all the time. Well, I finally found that great God in several ways throughout the Christian faith. But if God is truly the greatest possible being, he would express the greatest possible virtue, which is love, in the greatest possible way, which is self-sacrifice. That logically flows, and that's what the cross and empty tomb are all about. So what got it to crack was me reading the Bible in the first place.
Right.
And I say this to a lot of people. I'm an apologist, but I'll tell you this. I hope people do not ever give lofty arguments with a closed Bible. The Bible is powerful. And then the evidence began to flood. So the crack started with the Bible challenging me, and eventually me giving my life to Christ came because the evidence was so good and it satisfied the mind and the heart.
That's so good, brother. When I was thinking about our conversation, I always ask God, what's a verse that you would want me to say to encourage people? And it's usually not one that I was expecting, and kind of going right along the lines of what you were talking about. It's from 1 Timothy, and it's talking about this God that's just, we didn't maybe even know that we needed it. And here it is. Here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to do what? To save sinners, of whom I am the worst. I just
Mm,
love the way
mm,
the God of the Bible operates. But
mm.
for some reason, I've been actually having quite a few of these conversations with people that have left Islam to follow Jesus. But there's always these interesting comments from people that are, doubting Muslims coming from an Islamic background. And I understand how sensitive this is because this isn't, my dad's side of the family is Hindu. This isn't leaving Hinduism where they're like, fine, Jesus, whatever. This is a break. This is a hard stop. This is betraying your family, turning your back on culture, whatever it might be. But what would your encouragement be to someone, maybe intellectually, I guess, that does have doubts about their Islamic faith?
Yeah. Well, I guess my encouragement would be is to, if doubts, see, in Islam, a lot of times doubt is considered a dirty word. Like any doubt is crushed with you're weak of faith, you're weak of mind, don't let it happen. You're going to, hurt your family, you're going to hurt your culture. The reality is this, though. Doubt, when it leads to sincere inquiry, is a good thing because it drives us to find the truth. Cynicism is different. You can be a skeptic or you can be a cynic. A cynic is someone who won't believe something until there's enough proof. And that's a good thing because you want to go where the evidence leads. So a skeptic won't believe until there's enough good reasons. A cynic is someone who won't believe even when there is good reasons. And sometimes our doubt can drive us to be a cynic. Like, I won't believe anything. But a skeptic is somebody who's open. So if you have doubts, find out where those doubts might lead. Now, here's the interesting thing is that I believe, and Muslims believe this too, that God is a good guide, right? If God is truly a good guide, he will lead you, if you have sincere questions and you follow the evidence sincerely, down the right path. Here's the issue, though. The issue is, do you block the path yourself? Because there are going to be consequences. And so keep asking yourself, am I resisting the gospel because I don't find it true? Or am I not finding it true because I find it hard? And those are the two questions you have to ask yourself.
Wow, that's good, brother. Well, why do you think so many people from the Islamic world are coming to faith in Jesus? There's reports of, tens of thousands of mosques closing in Iran, potentially up to 10 million people in the underground church in Iran.
Mhm.
This is not just a drop in the bucket. Something is happening here.
Yeah.
Why do you think all of a sudden there's this massive wave of people from the Islamic world coming to faith in Yeshua?
I do think that there is a groundswell that's happened for a couple of reasons. Is that Muslims are taught around the world, in the West and in the East and the Middle East, and all over the world, in fact, that Christianity is just, it might be right-hearted, but it's wrong-headed. It's dumb. Trinity is silly. The incarnation doesn't make any sense. How could it possibly be that God is a man? And the crucifixion doesn't make any sense either. So they're taught that this is dumb. But then headlines break, and there are political issues and social issues and some atrocities worked out in the name of a religion they were born in. And now they're saying, wait a minute, is this true too? And so they're starting to wonder about this. So they think Christianity is silly and Islam is bad. And so they leave faith altogether. But then there are those who live a Christian life in their lives and see it changing. They're seeing the changes in Christians they know. But then there are Christians who actually know what they believe as well. And so they see it lived out in Christian societies or Christian dominated societies as a good thing and a positive thing. And then they see also the credibility is seeping in, and they begin to say, you know what? I thought it was dumb before, and I thought I had no options. But so I'm leaving this religion to atheism, but maybe I ought not do that. Maybe there's something good and beautiful in the Christian faith as well. So I would say, in a nutshell, to me, the fundamental reason why people are coming to faith is because information is out there now, and it was once suppressed.
Yep.
People are starting to see that this Christianity that they once thought was a caricature of silliness is
Mhm.
actually intellectually, but also emotionally and existentially beautiful, and it benefits society. So they're beginning to see that, and they want it. That's why it's happening in Iran. That's why it's happening all over the place. When the gospel gets out, when it gets in, when the aroma of the gospel seeps into a room, the smell is quite sweet, and you follow your nose all the way to the dish that emanates that aroma, and it's something worth tasting.
Ooh, that's good stuff, brother. I'm gonna obviously have to have you back on because I just think you're a wealth of information. But lastly, my friend, how can my friend watching this connect with you? Where would you want them? I mean, I know you have like 7 trillion books.
Yeah.
Abdu Murray, the man to go on to Amazon for. But where would you want people to find more information? Let's say they are curious. Well, where would you want them to be directed to?
I would give them two places. Go to our website, embracethetruth.org, all one word, embracethetruth.org, and then you'll find links there, but also go directly to our YouTube channel, Abdu Murray Official, and you'll find all kind of videos that will help you get the answers you're looking for.
Abdu, my friend, thank you so much for coming on.
What a pleasure. Thanks, brother.